Who did not see this coming? Rocksteady Games is now laying off significant portions of its teams following the epic financial disaster of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, thanks to consultancy Sweet Baby Inc. and its insertion of woke ideology into the game. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com this morning, and this report comes to us from Tom Phillips at Eurogamer. He claims that the company laid off over half of its quality assurance department, reducing it from 33 to 15. He also claims that the layoffs affect those outside of quality assurance as well, and have affected individuals across the board, from junior staff to individuals who have been with the company for over 5 years. A number of employees allegedly told the outlet that product quality will now suffer as a result of the layoffs. Shocking. There's also like a quote from one employee in the report that I didn't include here because it just felt like it was obvious. It was like, well, now that all of these people have been laid off, other people who work at the company are now going to have to shoulder that burden to continue doing that work. It's like, well, yes, exactly. That's how that works. Unless they weren't really doing anything in the first place, which why were they employed to begin with if you're just kind of sitting around twiddling your thumbs and someone else was doing your job for you? I do think there is a lot of that happens in corporate America. Who knows if it was happening in Rocksteady? We know that it was happening over at Twitter. Elon Musk fired a bunch of people over there and doesn't really seem to have seen a significant decline in the efficiency of that. Obviously, I think if you cut a lot of the federal government workforce, you wouldn't really see a decline in the efficiency happening over there either. And regardless, a little bit of a tangent there, but that was part of the report as well, but I didn't decide to include that. But again, this was not surprising at all. We knew that this game was a massive, massive disaster due to the fact that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on it and people were boycotting the game due to their involvement. In fact, we had Warner Brothers Discovery revealing earlier this year that the company took a $200 million impairment charge on the game. During the company's first quarter earnings results webcast, Chief Financial Officer Gunnar Wiedenfeld said this: starting with studios, the $400 million plus year-over-year decline during Q1 was primarily due to the very tough comp we faced in games against the success of Hogwarts Legacy last year in the first quarter, in conjunction with the disappointing Suicide Squad release this past quarter, which we impaired, leading to a $200 million impact to EBITDA during the first quarter. He had previously detailed during the company's fourth quarter 2023 earnings webcast. This year, Suicide Squad, one of our key video game releases in 2024, has fallen short of our expectations since its release earlier in the quarter, setting our games business up for a tough year-over-year comp in Q1. So obviously, that was confirmed with an absolute disaster, $200 million impairment charge, absolute financial disaster, financial failure, financial catastrophe. Let me know your synonyms for how you're describing this, because it is a failure of epic proportions. We also had in their Q2 earnings release for 2024, Warner Brothers Discovery shared that its games division revenue declined by 41%. The report said this: games revenue declined 41%. Excluding foreign exchange, that's what the FX stands for, primarily driven by the weak performance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League this year compared to the strong performance of Hogwarts Legacy in the prior year. Wiedenfels added during the accompanying earnings call, while as we've called out last quarter, games are still struggling against last year's Hogwarts Legacy comp and a muted response to Suicide Squad this year. The company's CEO and president of global streaming and games, JB Parrott, also addressed the game on the call as well. He said this: the reality is we've had the unfortunate in the short period of 12 months. We went from having the record year that we had in 2023 with Hogwarts Legacy to unfortunately having the opposite side of that spectrum with Suicide Squad. So just kind of stating how abysmally bad this game was for Warner Brothers. Talking about Hogwarts Legacy on the massive success and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League on the opposite end of that spectrum as a failure. It doesn't get any more clear than that. But you want to see how bad this really is? Look at this data that I took from SteamDB, the screenshot here. Almost 99% of its player base since it launched in February has evaporated, is no longer playing this game. You can see the all-time peak was back in February when it launched, 13,459. The most recent 24-hour peak only hit 144 players. That is a decline of 98.9%. Almost all of this game's player base is no longer playing the game at all. Massive, massive decline in the player base. And they're still updating this game. They are still updating this game. They're still spending money updating this game, introducing lesbian, gender swapped Victor Freeze characters. That is what they think is going to move the needle. It didn't move the needle at all. You can see they actually did move the needle a little bit there at the end of March, maybe beginning of April there. You see that little bit of spike. That was the Joker season 1 release. They moved the needle a little bit. I think they got up to like 3,000 there, but you can see it's pretty much been flat ever since then. The Mrs. Freeze DLC did not move the needle whatsoever. All of this comes amid a number of reports and rumors. There was a rumor from Dark claiming that Rocksteady might actually get shut down due to the failure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I still think that's possibly on the table. I mean, they're laying off lots of people right now, obviously having their QA team. But this is what she shared back at the beginning of June. She says Warner Brothers is internally talking about closing Rocksteady or having their 250 employees after Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's bomb. So it looks like there is maybe a little bit legitimacy to this. She's talking about having their employees. Obviously, they just had over half of the QA team, and they are saying that other departments have been affected as well. So it's possible that they are indeed cutting this entire company in half, as she reported. She went on and said this: I have heavily covered Warner Brothers games and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League since release because of what it represented for Warner Brothers games and a beloved franchise. When it was greenlit, we were seeing a giant scramble for studios to create live service games, and this one released too late, plus the content did not resonate with players. So I don't think, I disagree with that. I think the live service stuff can still work. You just saw Zenless Zone Zero release, made huge money when it released, last month, 2 months ago. We're still seeing great returns for games like Genshin Impact as well as Honkai Star Rail. Obviously, those have a little bit of a gacha mechanic to it, which changes up how they monetize. But again, those are live service games, and they release massive updates almost every single month that introduces new gameplay mechanics, new enemies, new characters, new worlds to explore, new places to explore, etc. So I don't think that the live service stuff is over. It's just that this game completely and utterly failed in its live service selling points. Also, clearly, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League had Sweet Baby Inc. all over it, and they were injecting the woke ideology into the game. Plus, I think people are just over heroes getting killed, heroes being turned into villains. I think people are done with that. People want to actually see heroes being heroic, being the actual good guys. I think a lot of people are just done with the moral gray stuff that we've seen from a lot of Hollywood studios. And obviously, Warner Brothers is a Hollywood studio and also being injected into video games. I think people are just kind of done with that stuff. They want to see good and evil, and they want to see heroes being heroic. They don't want to see them muddying themselves in this moral gray area that these people are always talking about. Nevertheless, Vera goes on and says this: Rocksteady Studios' co-founders and studio heads also departed the company back in 2022. I'm not sure if one of them did, but if he did at that time, but I know he's now with Hasbro and he's making a Snake Eyes game, G.I. Joe Snake Eyes game. Similar, it sounds like in the vein of the original Arkham games. So that should be, I'm actually looking forward to that. That could be really good. She goes on and says, Rocksteady is a shell of the company it used to be. And we saw this happen recently with Embracer Group and Volition, a company that had 30 years of experience under their belt. And it sounds as though Warner Brothers is planning to pull the plug on Rocksteady too. They have no other games publicly announced, and there does not seem to be any confidence in them anymore. Even back in 2016, we got the Batman Arkham VR game that was developed by Rocksteady, and the new Batman Arkham Shadow VR game is being done by Camouflage. Only time will tell. It doesn't seem like the future is very bright for Rocksteady. And then a few days after she posted that, we got a report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier indicating that Warner Brothers Discovery was cutting back his support from the game. He wrote on X that Rocksteady was only providing bare bones support now. He added that it was definitely not as much as they'd originally planned. You can see his post there. That came following a report that he actually wrote up in Bloomberg that said that the company's employees, quote, are now helping to develop a new director's cut version of Hogwarts Legacy. So they had already kind of shifted the focus of a lot of the people that were working on Rocksteady to a completely different game that Rocksteady didn't really develop. I think that was Avalanche over there, developing Hogwarts Legacy. He did note that the company was planning, quote, to pitch a new single player game, which would return Rocksteady to its roots. And then obviously, screenshot there of all of the employees of Sweet Baby Inc. that worked on the game or are credited on the game. Kim Belair, David Bedard, the co-CEOs, co-founders, or I guess Kim Belair is the CEO, and the two co-founders, though, listed at the top as writers. And as I said, all of this comes as the game was boycotted due to the influence of Sweet Baby Inc., the game was added to the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected Steam Curator list, which has now grown to over 429,000 followers. Obviously, they didn't blow up until March, but Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was the game that kind of blew it up, right? Because people were like, what is going on with this game? What is happening here? And people started noticing the pattern that Sweet Baby Inc. was working on a lot of these games that were utter and abject woke failures, and people were done with it. And then just to point out, we did have this. This is the week that the game released, or about a week after the game released. We had Endymion, who now has 270,000 subscribers. I think at the time he had 250, so he's grown by 20,000. Huge gains over there for him. Congrats to him. But he pointed out that current Sweet Baby Inc. employee, at least I think she's still an employee. I haven't double checked recently, but she was back in March at least. And she was a writer at Rocksteady on this game. But Amy Lee Shaw, he noted that she and Sweet Baby Inc. ruined the game, as well as other people at Rocksteady. And he shared this in February. He says, of course, Amy tries to take the moral high ground here, but the truth is that the damage is done. And what her and the team over at Sweet Baby has done to Suicide Squad, not to mention other games like Spider-Man 2 and more, everything they touch lessens and cheapens the stories and characters within them. It's gotten so bad that the name Sweet Baby is all but considered a taboo term. It's just as bad as when customers label a product as woke now. Now, openly stating your game has any relations to Sweet Baby has become code for people to avoid that product entirely, like the plague, because chances are, whatever your game is, if Sweet Baby is involved, it'll be ruined and made into a pandering mess to some capacity. And I think those words have rang true, as we've seen numerous games that were or contracted with Sweet Baby Inc. have been utter abysmal failures, and their studios have also been laying off people, contracting because they just didn't get the sales that they needed, because they hired Sweet Baby Inc. and people are indeed boycotting them and have no interest in playing games that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on. But let me know what you guys make of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League now laying off people, Rocksteady laying off people after this game's abysmal failure. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.